Greetings, lovers of lore. Thank you for joining me for this Phyrexia All Will Be One lore video. We're doing something a little bit different today and taking a look at the secret hidden story of Phyrexia All Will Be One. I've already released videos documenting the entire written story, but when you take a look at the trailer and the actual cards themselves, you can see there is an entirely different storyline that Wizards had originally intended. And we've seen with previous storylines as well that Wizards has done a lot of tweaking and the original idea that they had has been changed, but the cards don't lie. So what we're going to do is take a look at a number of different contradictions or missing elements, and then we're going to finish up by talking about the way the story was supposed to end with the death of Elspeth and Elesh Norn. Now, starting out with some of the smaller contradictions that aren't terribly relevant, you have the Planar Disruption card, where it just shows Wanderer vanishing, and the flavor text is talking about how all of the Planeswalkers have been scattered. But this appears like it's just the Wanderer normally dissipating like she does. Kaido is there saying, no, don't go, but this could have been literally Kamigawa artwork where they just photoshopped Phyrexia into the background. But this is a minor sort of, this doesn't fit in with the flavor aspect. It gets bigger from here. You have Tamiyo, who is a major presence in the cards in the set, but is not shown anywhere in the story with any real presence. So in the cards, she's experimenting on people. She's actually documenting the process of Phyrexia, turning people into Phyrexians. And she goes on to create a super powerful gauntlet that has temporal capabilities. So you can see her doing her experimenting in prologue to Phyrexia, and Tamiyo's logbook and the Thrumming Bird also add to the overall flavor of this. So she is spending her time studying under Phyrexian guidance. She's not the only one under Phyrexian guidance. Jace also is. You can see him in multiple cards. Distorted Curiosity is one where you can see he is actually experimenting with possibly some sort of poisonous ooze. And I want you to notice specifically that the little tentacles that are popping out of his body, they have these little sphere lenses that kind of look like recording devices coming up out of them. Now, we've never seen anything like this with Jin Gitaxias. He doesn't have these kind of probes. However, there is a brand new being that we see in this set, the Blue Dominus, which does have the same sort of wire camera balls extending from its body as well. So it's a situation where you look at it and go, what is the deal with these? Well, overall, they have one of these Dominuses for each of the colors. And when the artwork was originally created for these, the artists were given the description that they were creating gods or godlike beings. So we may have actually had a situation where there were Phyrexian gods that were lording over each of the different spheres. Now, obviously, with Elesh Norn and her leadership, they may not have been absolutely in control. Perhaps they're below the Praetor, but in either way, we can see that Jace is actually in service to this Dominus. And on top of that, he has been completed way ahead of schedule than when we see him in the actual storyline. In the story that we got, he basically gets completed at the very, very end of the story. But in the actual story that we were supposed to get, he's completed way earlier on after Vraska betrays him. Nissa actually plays a bigger role in the story that's shown to us by the cards as well. She doesn't have that much of an impact in the written story, but in the cards, you can see she's actually instrumental to bringing the world tree online. Realmbreaker, the tree that Phyrexia is using to invade all of the worlds, instead of it just naturally getting finished as they're charging towards it, like we heard in the written story, what actually happens is Nissa is used as a focus. You can see it in the artwork for All Will Be One. Elesh Norn is standing there triumphantly over Nissa's body. And you can see, it's crazy. I love this transformation with Nissa where you have the 3 different arms and then her 4th arm is actually her staff. and you can see the nature magic blasting out of her, but it's being corrupted and flowing into Phyrexianized red mana, and that's all being used to infuse Realmbreaker. And so actually Nissa was the key of how Realmbreaker actually reached out to all of these different worlds. So you have that scenario, which makes you go, okay, what happened with the Silex? We do have artwork where Jace is literally holding a Silex, and you can see Kea is crying out as the Silex in her hand is disappearing. Now, we were told in the story that's Kea grabbing it away from Jace, and then he goes, haha, nope, actually, I've got it, and it's illusion magic. But it's possible that what was going on here is Jace actually just used magic to pull it from her hands into his hands, or it's also possible that Jace is actually just infusing this now with Phyrexianized essence, maybe that he got from that Dominus god, some kind of understanding. But either way, he could be corrupting the actual Silex over to Phyrexia, because he was not the one who was originally meant to be using it. They signaled to us stories ago that you needed to be the right kind of person to be able to activate the Silex. Now that deviated from the very original story that we were given back in the day with Urza, and technically anybody who had access to mana, even somebody who wasn't a planeswalker, could set off this, but now they played it up as the Silex requires a bigger, more important sacrifice. But we have other elements going on at the same time that are just completely washed away. In terms of the setups in the Phyrexians, basically every one of the Praetors are all trying to jockey for power, with the possible exception of Vorinclex. The main battle is going down between Elesh Norn and Urabrask, but the Mirren Rebellion, it's not really an alliance with Urabrask the way they make it sound in the story, where he's tolerating, they're kind of working together. The Rebellion has a much bigger presence in the set and obviously pushes back against Urabrask. In fact, his Forge is shown as a story spotlight card, and that was the only card where I went, okay, I'm not sure where this fits into the story, but the entire battle between the Rebellion was supposed to be bigger, pushing back against Urabrask, and also trying to take down Norn and stop the other Phyrexians on the black-aligned part of Phyrexia, where you have the Dross. The Steel Thanes were supposed to have a bigger presence battling under Sheoldred, and actually Vran was supposed to have a bigger presence as well. He's a Phyrexian vampire. He's the most dangerous of the Steel Thanes. And actually multiple Praetors approached him to take out other Praetors, and Vran is secretly plotting underneath to destroy all the Praetors and become the new father of machines. So you've got all that going on. And then you've got Thrun as well, who I don't know what exactly he was supposed to do, but it feels like he is supposed to do something important. If you take a look at his artwork, you can see him with his staff up like he's in some kind of ritual, and the Mirrens around him are cheering. I don't know, like in the written story, they just go, Thrun made a hole and we went down a rope in it. So I don't know, maybe Thrun actually opened up the hole down into the Great Furnace level so they could invade Urabrask's realm. But either way, the whole rebellion has a massively pushed down presence. Thrun is just a toss away, which is unfortunate. But this all leads me to the idea that you have these Phyrexian gods that are lording over New Phyrexia, and they represent a whole new threat level, right? They have obviously the indestructibility is a big problem. I love the fact that the Phyrexians have a Realmbreaker tree where they can move into different realms, and like the denizens of Kaldheim, they also have their own gods, but these gods, unlike the Kaldheim ones, can be made indestructible with the right sacrifices. So you've got this world where Elspeth comes in and she's going to use the Silex to destroy everything. So the story goes along the lines of Jace gets his hands on the Silex. It seems that all is lost. I don't know all the specific details in between, but then Elspeth manages to get the Silex away from Jace. Maybe she does just charge him and jork it from him. But in the story as it was written, what they tell us happens is the world tree connects to all of the realms. And then Chaos like, oh no, but if it's connected to all the realms, then it might destroy everything if we set off the Silex. And nobody's like, yo, we should have talked this out ahead of time. Basically what happens is they bail on the plan and go, we're not going to destroy Realmbreaker. We're not going to set off this and destroy all these different worlds. And so Elspeth comes charging in without having heard that conversation, instinctively knows all that, skewers Jace, grabs up the Silex like a football, and then hurtles through the Blind Eternities out past the Blind Eternities, and we don't hear anything further from her. So it's almost like the Superman throw the nuke into space kind of thing, right? So Elspeth does that in the written story. But if you take a look at the card Vanish into Eternity, you can see what was really supposed to happen. We were supposed to get our epic heroic sacrifice, where Elspeth feeds her power into the Silex. You can see it. She is a white aligned planeswalker. You can see she's infused the Silex with that white mana, and you can see the cost. She's screaming as she's being unmade by the Silex. The activation of the Silex, the unmaking of everything, starts with her. But where it gets really crazy, friends, is when you take a look at the alt arts for all of these Phyrexians. I'm going to show you a series of Phyrexians being unmade by the Silex Blast. That's what these alternate arts to me were meant to be. You can see these individuals literally disintegrating. If you take a look at the cards beside the artwork, you can see, boom, beforehand, disintegrating afterwards. You've got the white light blasting behind the destruction. It actually feels like what you would see in a comic book when someone gets taken out in a stylistic way, right? So this screams to me that Elspeth activated the Silex in a heroic sacrifice to destroy new Phyrexia. And you get to see a whole sequence of Phyrexians being undone, and it ends with the mother of machines herself being destroyed by the obliterating light of Elspeth's purifying sacrifice. It's so epic and so fulfilling as a finale. That's how it should have gone. That's a real solid boom. We've got good stakes. Right now, as it stands, it feels like any of the Phyrexian planeswalkers can come back. Anybody can just come back to life. So it doesn't feel nearly as heavy as Elspeth literally disintegrating into nothingness as she unmakes all of Phyrexia's. Presumably, the other planeswalkers all did their tearful goodbyes. You know, it's like, I'll always remember you. Just a super epic ending. But yeah, Elish Norn being disintegrated at the end, it feels so right. Now, obviously, I can't prove that that was the story we were supposed to get, but I super strongly feel it from a combination of all of these different elements that come together. So let me know your thoughts on this. I think it's super exciting. Thanks for coming by. If you love what we're doing here, you can support us on Patreon or by joining the channel membership. Big shout out to the channel's patrons and channel members. And I will see you all for the next video. In the meantime, my friends, go watch some more lore, and remember, lore is life.